March 5th, as we get into our stuff for today. I'm assuming no one has camp stuff for me. Again, you can turn it in whenever you want. It was due kind of last week. The longer you wait, the less people you'll have in a group that you know. For the 9-week assessment essay, I will be giving you the articles tomorrow, unless you want to go talk to your parents, because I did email them. But other than that, I'll give them to you then, which will give you plenty of time. They're not super long. And then we have choice day selections today during best hope. How many of you guys already know what you're planning on signing up for?
I'm doing like 2 things.
Wicked the musical.
Do I have paper for today?
No, just watch the videos.
Mom.
And then you guys have your backup selections.
Yep.
Yeah.
First one,
Actually,
just checking. And then you'll be signing up today. Hopefully you get your first choice. We'll see how things go from there. Matthew!
So, if we already have like half the money turned in from the permission slip, do we still get our group?
So, all I care about is the permission slip. The money that someone else's would issue, as far as making your groups go, the permission slip's all I care about. Because that tells me legally I get to put you into a group. Until you turn in a permission slip, I can't put you into a group. So the money just means that you actually got paid for it. Someone else gets to yell at you for that. Hi! No, I did not like that. So you were out of luck. I tried it the one time and it made my head hurt. Everyone in this class is good. Go you guys. Wait, no. We still have 3 kids in this class who have not turned it in. But we have no one who still needs to take the quiz. But we do still have, I believe, that kid still needs to turn it in.
Yeah.
That kid over there still needs to turn it in.
Oh yeah.
And then a kid who's dead needs to turn it in. The rest of you are good to go.
So I'm
If you wanted to retake the myth quiz, you're still welcome to. You will have to email me because I'm not going to go look for it until you email me to say I did it. If you did well on it, then you're fine, but just figured I'd put it out there to help you. Then, let's see, we're going to get to more fun stories today, but we'll do our speedy little review of the previous ones, and we'll get to our ones for today with our new stuff. Let's see, the 3 weapons. Wait, who makes the 3 weapons? What weapon does Zeus get? Nicely done. And who's his next brother?
Trident.
It's from Minecraft. This is
Helmet of invisibility.
Nicely done. Alright.
And it looks like that.
And what happens to humans during the war?
They die.
They dead.
And all the gods who fought against Zeus? Except for Cronus. What happens to him?
He was on the run.
And then
Alice
where
went up
do
the sky.
monsters go?
Edge of the world.
And we're going to talk about the Cyclops today, about them going to go hide in a mountain, and that's the today story we're going to get to. And they go hide in a mountain because they're too big to hang out on Mount Olympus. And then what is the worry about this mountain over here?
It's going
That's going to crumble and fall. And Zeus doesn't want it to crumble and fall, so he has to make a god hold it up. And that god is Atlas. And that is Atlas. Although in pictures we see it is not of Atlas holding up the sky. And that's where him holding up the world comes in. And then that's with the whole changing of it. And then how does Zeus prevent Atlas from then just dropping the planet? How many daughters? 9. Not a thing you have to know. I was just curious to see if you remembered it. And then the Hesperides, so that prevents him from dropping them. And then we break up the world into our 3 kingdoms. Which kingdom does Zeus get?
Everything above the sky.
Poseidon.
Ocean.
Hades.
Everything below.
And at this point, Zeus has taken over Mount Olympus. How many thrones?
12.
And that's where he starts filling in our 12 thrones. And this is where... Oh, did we have any questions on this one before we move on? I just wanted to make sure we're good. We're moving through the backside of it. So on the backside, it's going to jump around a little bit. Backside depends more on from class period to class period. I'll be sort of telling the stories in slightly different order depending on classes and what questions come up. So I cannot guarantee the backside will all be in order. So if you sort of look through there, there's going to be some bits you might recognize. It's like, if you look over here, if I forget.
So, if there's rain, does that mean everything that the rain touches is going to be beside him?
He really only cared about the oceans. He didn't really care about lakes and ponds. I mean, technically they were under his control, but he majorly just focused on the idea of the oceans.
So
So,
trying to
yeah,
avoid
unless you're crying salty tears, it doesn't really matter.
Wait, don't we all cry salty tears?
We should, no, I mean, unless you're an alien. So these posters over yonder, who was the god that ate babies?
Chrono.
So I put his poster higher up, which is why you see it higher than all the others except for this one that we're going to talk about probably tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then how many babies does he eat?
5 in a rock.
5 in a rock. So if you look here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so I put all of those there. They're also in an order that we're going to find out today. There's a reason why Hades is on one end, Hesper's on the other end.
The older guy.
Now, Zeus and Hera, why are they next to each other?
Because they're married.
So I put the two married that are next to each other. So as you go through it, there's actually a reason why all the posters are in an order. There's a reason why Aphrodite is higher and Hephaestus and Ares are on either side.
Because they
And
fought
there's a
for...
so as we get through it, I'll keep pointing up to those posters and try to explain things as best we can. Home children, you'll just have to use your imagination with those posters over there I was pointing to. So you guys, we got started on this. If you're a home children, like Cameron, who's watching the video, stop dying. This is where you're going to have your notebook, or if not notebook, a random piece of paper that you're just not going to get to lose for the next couple of weeks. We are going to be going through and talking about the 12 Olympians and how each one of them gets their throne and the little story of how they came to be. So you should have 12 acrossy rows and 3 up and downy rows. 1 for the name of the god, 1 for what they're the god of, and then 1 for our tiki-taki dance that we get to go through and combine. Matei again.
So, is it going to be like the current real ones, like at the end of like the story, or is it going to be those, or is it going to be like at the beginning with Hector?
Guess you're going to find out. That's the joy of learning. So our first god that got a throne we talked about was?
Zeus.
Yeah, he's the one that gets to control it all. So Zeus is our first one to get a throne. What do we say for him?
King of all the gods.
He is the good. Now, given he does have a lot of different things he controls, but for the most part, all we care about is he's king of all the gods. And then in almost every picture we see of him, some of you seem to be trying to smite me. I wish you luck with your smitage. And that's where you're going to point, hold your lightning bolt, try not to release your pencil and turn anybody into a unicorn, because that is not what Zeus does. He does not unicorn people. But it explains a lot. And then I believe we got through our second god with you.
Hera, queen of all gods. Kill baby.
And so this is where Hera comes in. And again, she is queen of all the gods, because even though she is the god of marriage and childbirth. And then we have our little hand sign where you're going to make your little make your crown, rotate crown, put crown on head. You can also have a sparkly crown. Just try not to make it a sparkly moose. Those of you who are sparkly moose people. And then did we get to our next one?
You got to Poseidon next.
Sorry. So this is where we start getting a chance to fill in all of our gods at this point. So Zeus was the first one. He wanted to give the next spot to Poseidon, but Hera steps up and says no. And again, we're going to go through and talk about the fact that it looks like Mr. Brovicast may have to get involved with certain seating areas as kids are making poor choices. Probably should put all of those away, because if I see them now, I'm going to take them. Aw, children, it's the bestest, and I love gummy worms. They're the gummiest and the wormiest. Kids nowadays. So, our next one, now that we get to go back to being sexist, who's our next one to get a throne? This is where Poseidon gets to step up. Because originally he wanted the second throne, but Hera said no. So Poseidon steps up and goes, is it my turn? And Zeus looks at Hera and goes, is it his turn? And she goes, I don't care, I got my throne. He's like, yeah, buddy. So Poseidon steps up. And Poseidon, what is he going to be in control of?
All the water.
So again, God, again, of water, but he really only cares about oceans. He really wants the big thing. If there's no dolphins in it, he's not a big fan. So he wants to be king of dolphins so he can throw them.
What is he after?
Does he like dolphins?
Yeah.
He likes to chuck them at people. By the way, if you look in the poster of Poseidon, these things in front of him, horses. Over here, right behind here, these things that are right below him are horses. Over here in this one, the things in front of him are So the Greeks thought that waves, the big white stuff when you see waves come in, they thought that was made from horses that were running through the water they just couldn't see. And so that's why you often see Poseidon with horses, is because they thought that those were making the waves. Hi, Jojo.
Yeah, cause in like the second Percy Jackson movie, when they were going to get on like Luke's boat, when Percy tried to call this the giant sequence, it didn't work. But when Tyson did, yeah.
There you go. That connections. So for our hand sign on this one, I figure if I take you and throw you into the middle of Poseidon's kingdom, there's a couple different hand signs you can go with. Those of you who are not big fans of drowning, like myself, I am going to do like a little swimming motion because I prefer not dying. Those of you who might not be strong swimmers, maybe that's not your strength. So for you, you might be more of a little doggy paddle, the whole I'm trying not to die. Others of you who have not learned how to, there's a difference between doggy paddle and slap fight. One of them is going to make you go down a little bit faster. Those of you who are not good at swimming at all, you just get to blub, 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 and you can do the drowning thing. And I have some kids who are a bit more dexterous than I am, and they can do like a little wavy thing. And so I am fine with any of those options. When I remind you, I'm always just going to do the swimmy thing. But if I do swimmy thing and you do drowny thing, that's fine. If I do swimmy thing and then you do rocky wavy thing, that's fine also. We have Poseidon, god of the oceans. Because I'm trying to stick with my tiki-taki dances. And so again, we have Zeus, king of all gods, Hera, queen of all gods, Poseidon, god of the oceans. Now our next one to get a throne is Hades. And Hades gets to step up and get a throne as Zeus is going through and explaining how all of this works to the gods. And he was like, I appreciate my brothers and sisters stepping up and taking over these thrones. As Olympians, one of the main things we get to do is we get to sort of work as like judges. Whenever there's an issue, like let's say one of the Titans brings in gummy worms and then licks one of the gummy worms and then tries to wipe it on another god that's next to him, we get to step in and help solve that problem, and they get to come talk to us whenever they... And Hades goes, whoa, whoa, what was that last part? And Zeus is like, we get to talk to them and help solve... And Hades goes, yeah. Is there a way that I can have a throne but not do the talking to people part? Because I'm not real big on that people talking to me. Zeus goes, no, that's the whole point of being an Olympian. We're the face of all the gods. They get to come talk. And Hades goes, I'm out! And gives up his throne. Hades is the first god who says, I don't want to be an Olympian. He goes, I appreciate what you got going up here, but I have my own throne, I have my own kingdom, and where I am, nobody talks to me. And I prefer that. So I'm going to pass on this whole people get to talk to me thing. So after Poseidon then, who's our next one to get a throne?
Ares.
Ares isn't born yet. Demeter. This is where, again, he's going through his brothers and sisters. And now that we're out of brothers, sexism, Demeter gets to step up. And Demeter's like, my turn for a throne. And she gets one. And again, Demeter's the one here throwing the wheat side, gang side. Wheat side! Again, over there behind Sienna, she's the one that's really mad at Hades, which is a story we're going to get to because apparently he kidnapped her daughter. And then over here, sitting on a throne of wheat, because what is her main thing?
God of crops.
So here is where also I'm going to have to step in to explain a thing. For both the boy gods and the girl gods, I'm going to say they are the god of something. And that seems to mess some people up because they're like, isn't she the goddess of? According to the Greeks, they didn't have the word goddess. That was not until like the 1970s with like girl power and rawr. But back then it was just everyone was a god of something. So it didn't mean you were a god or goddess. If you want to write goddess, more power to you. But I'm just going off back when they just said you were the god of, which meant that you were sort of the controller of a thing. It did not really have a gender connected to it. For her, I realized that a lot of you guys don't spend a lot of time necessarily outside running through fields. For most of you, the only time that you spend time running through fields is probably in Fortnite or Minecraft. But sometimes in the spring and summer, the big people in your house send you outside for an hour or so to take care of things in your yard. And so I figure for many of you, this is your main way of interacting with grains
Mowing.
and harvest, because
Mowing.
technically grass is a type of grain or harvesting of things. So what you're going to do is a dance called the lawnmower. If you are unfamiliar with the lawnmower, no, that's the sprinkler. That's a little bit different. That's when you water the grass and then you have to mow it. To do the lawnmower, you first off grab your lawnmower handle, and then you have to get the pole starter to get it going. So you have to reach down, grab your pole starter, and you pull it, and then pull it. Usually starts on the third time. And then once your mower's going, then you get to mow. And then you get to walk around and mow.
I don't need to
Now,
sit down at 11.
I understand for some of you that's way too much walking, and you're like, I am never doing that much exercise. And so you're more of a riding mower person. And then in that case, you can just sit on your little riding mower, and instead of pull starting it, you get to turn the key, and then, and now it's going. And now you get to do your little riding mower along those lines. Some of you have the really fancy line mowers where you can go like, rar, 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 and you can sort of drive around with those two big handles on it. It's up to you. Whichever type of lawn mowing you feel strongly with. Don't worry, you're going to be doing it in front of the entire class, so you might as well just embrace your lawn mowing now. Demeter, god of grains and harvest, and embarrassing children.
My pencil,
I
like,
feel bad
you
for
like
the
lead
ones that you mow lawns.
What happened to your pencil?
You have lead
I do not.
Kind of pencil.
Yeah, let me issue.
I like my shoes.
Okay, good luck. All right, so our next one to get a throne then would be
Hestia.
this.
But then she's gonna give it up to Dionysus.
Hestia is the one right there. So Hestia is our next one to get a throne. Is again, he's going through all of his brothers and sisters. If you can't see her poster real well, I took a picture of it to try and make it a little bit
You still
easier
can't
to
see it.
see.
That's worse.
That's the best I could do. Sometimes if you close your eyes, it might make it easier to see. Hestia was not a ghost, which is what she looks like in the picture. Hestia was the god of fireplaces, which does not sound like a real
She's the god of
important thing
home.
to be a god of, but with Greeks, she was the god of the hearth and home, which was a fireplace. For the Greeks, having a fireplace was important, because in the wintertime, if you didn't have a fireplace, you had these things called kidsicles, which were frozen children. And so you wanted to have a fireplace to keep your family alive. So this is, in the little picture, there's a fire, and that's a chimney, and then there's smoke coming up, and that is her being formed by the smoke that comes out of the top. She's also in the one that is over, let's see, where is Hestia? She is, the one right here behind Hephaestus. So in this picture, she's the one that's standing behind him, sort of
Like
being
standing
nice
there.
to
Oh, I
him.
thought she was a giant.
So
Like Tinker.
with Hestia, she is one of the only gods that has no bad stories about her. Most of the gods do something awful. Some of them do a lot of awful things. Some of them enjoy doing awful things. Hestia has almost nothing awful that she does. She was like almost all around a really nice god, which is also why she's not going to stay on the list. Eventually, she gives up her throne for another god, which is a story we're going to get to coming up on Thursday, about the god who kept yelling out other gods' names and then lost points and then wondered where those points went. And sometimes learning is painful for those gods. So that's where Hestia comes in. So technically, she's on this list, but we're going to sort of ignore her for a little bit. So we have now 5 thrones filled in. How many thrones are left to fill in? 7. Good job with your quick math, those of you who have 12 fingers. But Zeus is out of brothers and sisters, and he only wants to put people on the throne that he can trust. And he figures he can only really trust people that are related to him. The closer they're related to him, the more he trusts them. Brothers and sisters were the best. Now, he can't put his dad on the throne. Why?
Because he ate this.
Yeah, he doesn't get along with his dad and tried to kill him. He offers a throne to his mom, Rhea, but Rhea doesn't want to have anything to do with it. She's like, yeah, I'm good. She's like, I've done the ruling thing. She's like, I'm just going to kick back and relax. He can't give it to his grandma because she's Mother Earth, and that's not going to work. And he does have cousins and stuff like that, but he doesn't really trust them. So who is he going to be filling in the rest of those spots with? This is where he starts filling it in with his children. You could, but it costs points. I wouldn't recommend it. And then you can draw it there. Your points.
No, they're gonna hate him. He's hates them.
Yeah, I got you.
He's gonna hate them.
That's not the way it works. Here we go.
That's on you, bro.
So, he starts filling it in with his own children. Now, starting off with, he and Hera have a number of kids together. They have a total of 4 children. 2 dudes and 2 girls. Now, if you look at your little family tree chart, you're going to see that Zeus has more than 4 kids. Zeus has a lot more than 4 kids. But that's part of the story we're going to get to in just a moment. We're going to start off with the first ones who get thrones are going to be his children. Now remember, hashtag sexism. So who's going to get thrones?
Boys.
The 2 boys. Now, the 2 daughters, one is named Hebe and the other is named Ilithia. Hebe and Ilithia, if you look around the room, you won't see them because they're not on any posters. Because Zeus is not the nicest person. Now, Ilithia has the roughest time. We just completely ignore her. She's born, and Zeus goes, daughter, and just sort of throws her off to the side, never really seen much again. Hebe, the next daughter, he's like, all right, we'll be a little nicer this one. But here's what he does with Hebe. When Hebe becomes of age and decides that she would like to join her father up on Mount Olympus, Hebe goes up and talks to Zeus and goes, Dad, I am ready to take a throne. Which one can I have? And he goes, oh, you're a daughter. That's not the way things work. Hon, I have a better idea. Instead of giving you a throne, here's the next best thing. She goes, what's better than a throne? He goes, well, sometimes the big people on thrones are going to get really thirsty and hungry. And we're too busy to go get stuff ourselves. So every once in a while, when we want to get something to eat or drink, we're going to clap our hands. And when we do, I need you to bring us food and drink so that we feel full and happy. So Hebe becomes the maid of Mount Olympus. And so that's the job that she gets, which might sound awful, but that's better than Ilithia because she's the one we go, oh yeah, there's a 4th kid. We keep forgetting about that one. And so she's the forgotten child. Now, his sons, they get to have thrones because, again, hashtag sexism. His 2 sons with Hera are going to be Hephaestus and Ares. What's up, Drew?
So I did. Can I borrow?
So when I had them being held up earlier,
Yeah,
we forgot we didn't have one.
I'm very bad at.
Paying attention? Counting pencils? There's so many things I can guess here. Oh, kids.
I told you.
So Hephaestus and Ares become our next 2 that are going to get thrones up there. Now, with Hephaestus and Ares, Hephaestus we've already talked about. What is he the god of?
The forge.
Yeah, he's not the god of volcano of fire or mountain of fire, but in all of his pictures, the main thing he's always doing, making weapons. He was the god of metalsmiths, or the weaponsmith, or however you want to look at it.
Let me guess this one. It's gonna be.
You'll see in a moment. And aside from him being the god of metalsmiths, we know one other important thing about him.
He's crippled.
He's
like Reed.
crippled.
Oh, so we're
So
going
that's our story we're going to get into. How he becomes the god of metalsmiths and how he gets crippled are connected in the same story. And this story is going to begin with a guy by the name of Zeus. So there's 2 different versions of the story. There's one that involves Zeus and one that involves Hera. I'm going to give you the Zeus version, and then once we get partway into it, this is pretty much the same story either way. It's just the beginning of it, of who does the thing to Hephaestus. There's a version of it where it's Hera, and I can give you the quick version, and then a version where it's Zeus. So with this, one day, Zeus is getting into an argument with Hera up on Mount Olympus. She has caught him being friendly, and she does not approve of his friendships, and the 2 of them are yelling back and forth. While Zeus and Hera are yelling at each other about his friendships, young Hephaestus, as a little toddler, comes walking in, and he sees his parents yelling at each other back and forth. And Hephaestus realizes it's because Daddy has made friends, and Hephaestus doesn't like it when his mommy is sad. So Hephaestus starts to yell at Zeus also, and is like, "You're a bad daddy! You shouldn't make other friends! Only be friendly with mommy!" Zeus does not like being yelled at by his wife. He really does not like being yelled at by his kid. And he doesn't feel spousal abuse is the right way to go because Hera kind of scares him. But child abuse, that's just fine. So he picks up young Hephaestus and shakes him back and forth. And was like, you should not yell at your father. You know what happens to kids who yell at their fathers? And he picks his kid up above his head and chucks him as hard as he can. Now, me personally, I'm all for throwing children. I used to, as we learned during Outsiders, that's how you save kids. But with my own children, we used to play a game called Spaceman in my house, where we'd go to like our big bed in our bedroom, and I would pick my kids up and like, whee! And I would throw them through the air, and they'd like, whee! And they would fly through the air, and then hit the bed, and then normally they bounce up. Sometimes they would go, whee! Bounce into a wall, but that's why they wear helmets now. And so that was the game we would play. Zeus does not gently toss his kid onto the bed. Zeus grabs his child and hucks him as hard as he can, and he goes flying out from Mount Olympus. The other version of the story that involves Hera says that shortly after that Hephaestus was born, she saw him and he was so ugly she could not stand how ugly he was. And so she goes, I don't want no ugly babos, and took him and went like, boom, and then punted him and kicked him off Mount Olympus for being ugly. I've seen both versions, whichever one you want to go with. It involves one of his parents being abusive. Hephaestus goes flying out from Mount Olympus, flapping his little Hephaestus arms, going flappy, 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 flappy. And as he goes flying out over the ocean, he's afraid that nothing good is going to happen because he's going to drown out there, but then he gets lucky. And as he goes flying, he sees a small island out in the middle of the water. So he starts trying to aim, and he uses his little arms, and he's like, and he aims himself until he lands directly onto the island, which seems good, except he lands all on one leg because he tries to stick the landing like a little gymnast. He's like, I'm seeing, and sort of lands. But when he lands, all of that impact goes into one leg, and every bone in the leg goes kaplap and disappears, and becomes like a little accordion, those little, and that leg just goes ka-sharp and just completely breaks apart. Now, gods can't die. When gods were young, they had to learn their healing ability. Julia, what's up? And so they have to learn their healing ability. For that to happen, there were two things they had to drink, called nectar and ambrosia. And when gods were young, nectar and ambrosia was like baby formula. If you didn't have it, bad things would happen to you. Zeus is so angry at Hephaestus, he refuses to let any god bring him nectar and ambrosia. He says, if any god goes down to this island and gives that kid nectar and ambrosia to help him, you are forever banished from Mount Olympus. So no god goes down to help him. Hephaestus eventually grows up on this island, abandoned by all the gods. One leg is completely crooked, the other leg is normal. So whenever he walks, he just sort of like goes around in little circles. And he tries to run as fast as he can, but still goes in circles. And it goes this way until he becomes a young man. And, oh, there's my boob. Until one day, on this island, he realizes that there's this gigantic mountain that's just been in the middle of the island the whole time that he's been ignoring. And he hears thunder coming from the top of the island, and at the very top of this mountain. And Hephaestus thinks it's his father. He's like, I'm going to go confront my father. I will apologize, and I will get my way back up to Mount Olympus, and I will say, I'm sorry for being sassy and being mouthy and you having to ground me on this island. Please accept me back. And he starts climbing up this mountain as well as he can.
Wobbling.
Gets up to the top of it with his one little wobbly leg. Wobble, wobble. Gets up there, and there's no Zeus, which he thinks is weird. And then he realizes the thunder is not coming from the top of the mountain. The thunder is actually coming from inside the mountain and is reverberating out from inside of it. So he finds a tunnel and starts going inside of this whole big mountain until he gets down to the very center of it. And in there, he discovers there are 3 creatures living inside this mountain. And they are humongous. The biggest things he's ever seen. These 3 creatures are Cyclops. And it turns out those 3 creatures are the Cyclops that were living inside of them, or living inside the mountain, and that's where they were working this whole time. The Cyclops don't care what Zeus says. They say, I'm bigger than him, I'm older than him. If he threatens me, we don't care. We're making weapons, we do our own thing. And they see this little crippled kid come in, and they go, little crippled boy, what are you doing? And Hephaestus is like, well, my dad chucked me off of Mount Olympus, and I've been living here by myself. And the three Cyclops go, why don't you come live with us? And they adopt young Hephaestus. And Hephaestus ends up being raised by the Cyclops inside of this mountain. And they start to train him in the one thing they're great at doing, which is
Making weapons.
making weapons. And Hephaestus gets taught by the Cyclops themselves how to make these weapons, and he becomes super good at making weapons. To the point where, because he's actually Titan-sized, he's even better at making Titan weapons than the Cyclops are because they're so big. To the point where Zeus is impressed and goes, hey, I need to find out who's making these even better weapons than the Cyclops. When he goes talks to the Cyclops, they're like, well, we found this little crippled kid that we've been raising. Zeus sees the crippled kid, recognizes him as Hephaestus, and goes, my long-lost son, why don't you come back up to Mount Olympus? I've missed you. I'm sorry for crippling you for life. And Hephaestus and him give a little bro hug, tap, tap, and everything is good again. That's the fast version. There's another version.
We're like, isn't there like with the nymph and then the...
And then tomorrow we're going to find out about his brother.
What was the difference?
Ah, we didn't get there yet.